Welcome to the Eastgate podcast, where we have in-depth conversations about topics that we may not cover on Sunday morning. My name is Nate, and today I'm joined by Rob Woodrum, Janelle Green, Blake Roseman, and a special guest, Luana. In this episode, we talk about the leadership structure here at Eastgate. Hi, my name is Nate. I am the student pastor here at Eastgate.
My name is Rob. I'm one of the pastors here at Eastgate.
I'm Janelle. I'm also one of the pastors here at Eastgate.
I am Blake Roseman, and I am the community pastor here at Eastgate.
And I'm Luana Schreifer, and I'm a board member at Eastgate.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So not a pastor?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll see how the podcast goes.
We're waiting to see what her tithe numbers are.
Keeping my eye on the prize.
She's my replacement, and I'm just now finding out.
We figured in a group setting it would be less dangerous.
It's a little easier to take.
I'm the new community pastor.
Blake, just scoot down a seat there. One more.
Keep going.
A little further.
Okay.
Now you know.
Okay, so we have a guest today, Luana, who is a board member, because we are going to be talking about the board here at Eastgate. What is our leadership structure? What does it look like and why?
Why is everybody looking at me?
Well, you
I
built
studied like wood and planks and stuff like that. We're talking about a different type of board then.
it.
Don't.
Luana, we expect you to not make these jokes as the new community pastor.
We also expect you not to laugh at that sort of thing.
Well, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay so far.
So, Dad, you started Eastgate. You kind of created the leadership structure here, right? And it was intentional.
Yes. It's all intentional, but it's been a work in progress. Well, it was a work in progress. It's been pretty kind of solidified for probably the last 20
days.
20 days. 20 minutes. We've been stable for 20 minutes.
We're really proud of ourselves.
Well, I think we got like a gold chip. I was going to say a 30-day chip.
I like that we keep making those for ourselves to like congratulate ourselves.
Made it another 30 days. Okay, so Eastgate started. We had no frame of reference or anything. Remember, my story is that I left a crazy church, controlling. It was freaking me out. My whole thing was, I believe in church. Jesus established church. There's got to be something to this. It's got to be more than what I've experienced so far. So my whole thing was I threw everything on the floor, and I just wanted to pick it up piece by piece and examine it. And whatever just seemed like it was fitting with the scriptural model and working towards what it was that Jesus was doing, then we were going to keep that. And if it wasn't part of that, or if I couldn't find a satisfactory scriptural basis for it, I would be willing to jettison it. Didn't mean I'd have to jettison it, because sometimes things aren't going to be in the Bible that are going to be practical and helpful, and we're going to employ them. But so for me, looking at the book of Acts chapter 15, we find this account where they're trying to make a determination about what they're going to do with the influx of Gentiles into the church. And so it actually just says that the apostles and the elders met together to resolve this issue. And at the meeting, after a long discussion, Peter stood and addressed them, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea was you had this core group of what they're describing as elders, which is a long rabbit hole in and of itself, trying to figure out who these are identifying. And it's still not perfectly clear in the scriptural record. The authority structure for the church is as vague as it could possibly be. It was one of the most curious and frustrating things for me trying to put this together, if I was going to try to base it solely on what scriptures are revealing and not just what is handed to me through the traditional development of church structures. And so for me, I looked at that and I thought, well, there it is. You've got issues to discuss, issues to resolve that are going to affect the larger community. So you have, in my terminology, a sub-community that gathers together, that prays, that discusses, that makes determinations, and then they move forward from there. And so that's what we decided we were going to do at Eastgate. It was a lot of false starts in the early years. It was probably a good 10 years before we had this thing solidified the way it is in its present state. And our concept behind it is pretty simple. We're a group of friends that have an interest in the church and the interest in the well-being of Eastgate. Any big decisions that are going to affect the entire community, largely that has to do with financial disbursements and things like that, but also, issues that come up that have to be dealt with. We gather together. We'll pray together. I would say we do a fair amount of what's the ratio of laughter to prayer, and sometimes it's intertwined. But
no, I love our meetups because I like that we have a variety of different people in our group that represents a variety of different people in our congregation, and so that's one of the things I really love about it is it's like a summer camp for big kids after they resolve a few problems. It's like, trust us, we got your bags. You don't want to see how we got them, but yeah.
So I know for Eastgate, the different leadership that we have, obviously we have like volunteer leaders or ministry leaders over different areas of like security and the coffee counter, things like that. We also have people on staff, which I feel like would represent a different type of leadership at Eastgate. And then we have the board, and the board is all volunteer.
Yes.
So that is unpaid, and that's intentional.
Correct.
Because, and even like the leaders of the finance team, that's volunteer as well. So that way they're able to try to be as objective as possible.
Correct.
I will say, and then our board meets 4 times a year. And we go through our budgets, but we just go through different, issues, maybe things that are going on in the church. We also go over changes. We just started Eastgate Mariana.
Yeah.
And that was something that we said, okay, well, before we can officially approve this or say you're good to go, we need to talk with the board and make sure that they are all in agreement. And that's something, too, with the board. Dad, you talked about it's not like a voting of like, it's not like the Supreme Court where it's like 5-3 voting or things like that.
Right. It's just we talk about it for a while, and then Rob stands up and says, I've made a decision. He flips over a table, and then he struts out like a rooster.
That's right.
And then we all say,
it's not always
the
like
grand
a rooster.
poobah
Have you ever
has
seen
spoken.
Rocky Horror Picture Show? I can do that one, too. Never mind. Edit that out. That's terrible. Here's the thing. My whole thing, and probably like everything at Eastgate, is a result of my own damaged personality.
We know.
But I suffered so much in 2 different environments within the crazy church, because there was a split in the crazy church, and so the following crazy church had to double down on the crazy. But
now with twice the crazy.
Twice the crazy. Fortified. But I suffered so much at the hands of autocratic pastors, people who had absolute power, who, they had a group of people that they said that were elders, but they had no participation in the function of anything. It was basically just a rubber stamp anything that the lead pastor, who was God's man of faith and power, and so whatever he said went. But when I looked at the biblical model and what I saw, especially even in Acts chapter 15, you realize there was no one singular autonomous person with power. They all gathered together and were trusting in the Holy Spirit and trusting in his leadership and the power of God to lead and guide. So that's what, to me, made the most sense as a model to keep everybody safe. No one individual at Eastgate has autonomous power to make decision-making power. It works through the plurality of leadership.
So was this the model at the very inception, or did you try a few different things, or was like the model that we have now today just like a natural?
Okay, so yeah, the model we have today is a progression, is the result of a progressive development. We got to put it in its proper context. 12 people sitting around aren't going to need a separate board, to make a decision about something. We all just talked and prayed. And so, like, when Eastgate moved into a building, we had been at my house for about a year, maybe more, and busting at the seams, all this stuff. Somebody had offered to give us a building that they had signed a lease on. It was a church that had been planted here, and they were going to leave. So they had chairs and sound equipment and all this stuff. And he just asked me, do you want it? You want it? You can take over the lease, and that releases me, and I can get out of here. And so what we did, the core group of people who were there at my house, we gathered together and we prayed about it. So we didn't make the decision until we had prayed, and we didn't take a vote, but what we looked for was consensus. And that's what we do to this day. We don't vote on anything. But basically, does anybody have a reason why this doesn't seem like God's purpose for us or whatever? And we went forward.
And I know you've talked about, too, in the past, there was a time where Eastgate almost bought a building, and the board met to decide, is this good? And at the time, there was kind of some excitement of like, yeah, this could be it.
Yep.
And there's a board member that...
Later on, it took a little bit of time and a couple meetings into gathering to discuss this, and we had started the process, went down, talked to the bank, which that's a whole different story. But the board member came back, said, look, I hate to do this. I hate to be a monkey in the wrench, but I just have a check in my spirit. I don't think this is the right course of action. And, that's a tough one to swallow. When everybody's excited and we're going, we've already moved in our minds. We've already put all this stuff, but we wanted to be true to that. And so we put the brakes on for a minute. We had some time. And we said, all right, let's take time. Let's pray. And during that time, while we were praying, the economic crash of 2008 happened.
Wow.
And our offerings dropped by half. And if we'd have gotten ourselves into that situation with the bank, and the bank was requiring pretty much my firstborn,
which was fine. That was
which I was up, because I said I got 3 others, so that's no big deal. But basically, that was a case. It always will stick with me to show that this is a great thing. If you had one, because if it were based solely on my excitement over the thing, I would have been like, let's just keep going. Let's go. But there was a case where the Lord was able to preserve us through the multitude of counselors, because there's safety in the multitude of counselors. Who quoted that just recently? Was that you that said it?
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite Bible verses. I use it for benevolence all the time.
Right on.
Yeah, and you follow that model even with the benevolence team of like, it's not just you making that decision. You've set up a team around you to kind of work together. And it works when everybody is, I think, on the same page for the goal and the mission and the heart behind the ministry. And that's where I'm so thankful for the board that we have now, because I know people who have been a part of churches where, sometimes the board is wanting, different focuses than maybe what the pastor is wanting or the leadership is wanting. And we have such a kind, generous board that cares so much about the community. They're not here to say, we've got to establish Eastgate as being wealthy, or we have to establish Eastgate as having this many members. I mean, there's never any of that pressure. It's always continuing that focus and that heart of the community. And,
the board has, so over time, it was just, we didn't need a board. And then a couple guys and I would get together and discuss, issues that were not much of anything. Again, when we were at the Promenade Mall, that's the first building that we had. We got to the size of about 40 people over a span of 6 years or whatever. It got bigger than that. That's when we had to move. But for a long period of time, it was just a small group of people. And you still didn't need, you knew everybody. You knew everybody that was there, and we could just have a discussion. That wasn't too big of a group to be able to.
And you decided to baptize in the fountain.
Yeah, that's another story too. But then as it grew, we got to about 100 people, and we'd moved over here. And it just became pretty clear we needed some kind of regular meeting with a group of people that were going to make decisions for us, because this building had come up as a opportunity, and just a lot of stuff that we had to try to think through. And that was right around the time that we had joined up with Calvary Chapel as well. And that was a group of guys had gotten together thinking we need some accountability outside of ourselves, which we still believe in. Even though we're not part of Calvary Chapel, but being part of Pastors United here locally, it actually provides even way more accountability than we had within an organization. So just having local other pastors here that we trust and believe in, and who are invested in our lives and we're invested in theirs, provides that sense of accountability. But anyway, so that's it. Developed into a group of people who meet pretty regularly and just discuss if there are issues, or sometimes we'll discuss things via email if it's an important issue and we can't get everybody's schedule together. We've got some board members who are actually original to it when it all first started, and so there's a lot of different ways in which you could go about that. We talked about having just a year, serve for a year, and then you leave. And then we realized, man, you're just starting to figure everything out after. It takes a year when you only meet, every few months. A year goes by quick, and everybody's still trying to get to know each other. I came to the realization that I like having the history. I like having people that have been here since the inception of it, so that they know the overarching story of what's been happening here. And then I like bringing newer people in. Luana is our most recent.
That's not
Melissa.
true. Melissa is.
Melissa Traxler, yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry. God,
She knocked me out of that spot.
She took your
I'm going
throne.
to talk to her next Sunday when I see her.
So Eastgate too. I know when I came back from college, and I mean, I would like to say I was, I don't know. I remember noticing, oh, hey, we only have men on the board, and that was something too that I feel like we talked about, and that changed as well. Because that's something that I feel like is really typical. Most churches you go to, it's just going to be men on the board.
I will tell you that obviously I was I was a complementarian for most of my life till about 15 years ago, and I would credit N.T. Wright and his brilliant work on that subject of turning that around. But far before that, Mike Brown, who's part of the board, had been asking me, well, Janelle too, but
But it wasn't my scholarly work. Mine was more of a nagging, like, hey, I don't like this.
I mean, look, she can say things all day long. It's not going to mean anything to me. This is my youngest daughter. She used to come up to me and talk, and I'd be looking at her like, I don't even understand a word you just said.
And it wasn't like he would think that. He would say that to me.
But no, I remember grabbing you on the shoulder saying, you have got to stop talking.
So this was par for the course. You're like, what about the women?
But then N.T.
I don't
Wright
understand what
emailed
you're
Janelle,
saying.
and you were like, oh, well, they're best friends now.
Here's the deal. Let's keep this straight. Janelle did not come in and try to strong arm me into changing my view on that. I had changed my view
to clarify that.
long before she got here. You can listen to my teaching on Timothy when he deals with that topic, and I'm echoing N.T. Wright at that point and representing that. So I appreciate everything that Janelle has brought in and the scholarly work and stuff, but this had been laid, and Mike Brown was way ahead of me. Mike Brown was the first one way back 20 years ago saying, why do we not have any women on the board? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I kind of think it should just be men. And he's like, I don't agree with that.
So if we could, just a quick sidestep on that, I think that's kind of one of the really great things about the board, the way that we work, because there isn't always full agreement on some of these things. There is agreement. I'm sorry. There's unity, but not uniformity.
Correct.
So there's different opinions from different people, and we've had I remember a couple of years ago we had a talk about Romans 14 and everybody's different convictions. Isn't it Romans 14?
No idea. What
about the eaten meat sacrificed to idols?
Holidays.
That's
1 Corinthians.
That's 1 Corinthians 10. Romans 12.
Sorry,
no, it's not 12. It's 14. Yeah, 14. But yes, I mean,
but we do always come to a consensus.
We come into a consensus on the issues that are pertinent to our church that we have to make decisions about. Sometimes, yes, I see what you're talking about. Sometimes we will make decisions that not everybody is in agreement with the conviction, but in seeing the need for there to be a consensus and unified.
And that's beautiful.
That you're saying it's not like, okay, now like Luana, welcome to the board. This is what you believe now.
You're right.
It's like you can still
bring yourself,
and other people are going to bring themselves. But yeah, so yeah, eventually that changed, and that's what I think. These things all take time. And so women were on the board. Yeah,
and so we practice the same philosophy even when it comes to people coming onto the board. So Our goal is to have, like you had mentioned, Luana, a sampling of who's representative of this community, and so what we do is we pray about it. We actually don't start with a name; we start with prayer. We need another board member. Let's pray, and we prayed. And as in the case with Luana, 2 of us at the same time had Luana's name pop into our head. And that felt
that's just crazy.
and
was it because she was like in the window, like waving?
She was. And as I was looking at no, and honestly, that's what's interesting to me in this whole thing is that for myself, Luana, you and I haven't known each other that well. I mean,
Right.
we're getting to know each other better, but I was perplexed as to why your name even popped into my head.
Yeah.
To where I took that as indicative of a leading of the Spirit. And so it had popped into my head. Somebody else said it out loud first. And I was just like, shoot, okay, there it is. So I said, I had the same name, and so let's pray about it. And so we took a month or so to pray about it. And
They interviewed me.
Yeah,
It wasn't like they were like, welcome, you're in. It was like, okay, what can you show us what do you bring to the table?
we do a
Not at all.
talent portion of the interview
No,
process.
we wanted to make sure you knew what you were signing up for. Like, yeah, sure about this. We don't want to.
Let us explain. Come sit here and let us explain what this means, really.
Luana, I want to know from your perspective what all that's like.
It was interesting because I hadn't been to the church a really long time. I probably have been here 1 or 2 years, and I had only done a little bit of volunteering with the children's ministry, I think. I had been part of a thing for women with a member who was current here. And so I think people had seen me around working in that venue with Misty.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I just came from a kind of like a Baptist church, and to be asked as a woman who has just gone through a divorce to be on the board was a little bit shocking to me. Well, a lot shocking. But I appreciated it so much because I feel like there are populations inside church that feel overlooked.
That's right.
You know, that there's nobody that represents them in leadership. And so I thought, wow, and it's me. So yeah, I was thankful as a person who was raising 4 kids, divorced, that the church was open to seeing me and seeing women going through similar things.
That's cool.
And that's part of it too. We did kind of inquire around because we didn't know you that well.
No,
Or
yeah.
I didn't inquire around. What do we know about? Is she a person of character?
Yeah.
Things like that. And when that was satisfied, we thought, well, man, this is good. Let's go ahead and invite her and see what she says. Well, all we did was say, do you want to be part of this? I mean, it's weird.
So also,
We're not going to pay you, but
Yeah.
we're going to ask you to
This
do a lot
is
more.
voluntary.
and with the so far as I've seen, with the new members of the board and stuff, we basically be like, hey, come and sit in a meeting and see what it's like. Were you shocked at that we were able to get anything accomplished because have no idea what we're doing? No, what was the first meeting like from an outside?
First meeting I went to was at Rob's house, and I think somebody bought bacon, and I was in. I was like, I mean, why didn't you lead with the bacon? If I would have known bacon was...
Yeah, that's how we're going to attract new board members. We're just going to have bacon cooking and just waft it over.
Yes,
and whoever
yes.
drifts towards
I'm
us,
telling you,
that's
it works. It works. So everybody was nice. I was nervous. I didn't, like you said, I didn't really know anybody closer, and I didn't really know people, but they were so welcoming and open, and that's what I liked. It wasn't like it was a group and then me. They were very welcoming and open. I could ask anything, so I liked it. They served margaritas, and I like that hard.
Yeah, so now we do like a lot of ours just after church, and it's like a potluck lunch
Yeah.
and just get together and yeah.
And, you know, it's been good. It's been a good model that has served us well over the years. And, you know, I can't foresee it changing, but shoot, we'll always be open to whatever God is doing.
And I think it works too, like, because I think, you know, as the pastor, you have to remain committed to holding yourself, like being like held accountable.
Correct.
You know, so where there have been times that we've wanted to do different construction projects or things like that, and the people on the board at that time were not like unsure, we needed to talk about it further, and it wasn't like, no, we've decided it's good, we're going to start with it, you'll get caught up, you know.
Right.
Like that's where it's like, okay, well, we have to wait for the board. And so that's what's been established here as well as the leadership is like, even with the finance team, of if they have suggestions or ideas or want to do things, you know, differently, or tell me like, hey, this is what we recommend, I'm intentional to be like, okay, well, I'm held accountable to them, we're gonna take
Right.
those steps and do those things.
I like the board. I'm sorry. I did want to say I like the board for a couple of reasons. One is supporting the pastor. I feel like supporting leadership is so much easier to do life with a group of supporting people who are for you, and it's not people who are just telling you what you want to hear, but people who are telling you what you need to know, so that you can make a good informed decisions. And I also like it for accountability. I feel like it's protective of the leadership to have a board. It's protective for the church to have people on the lookout. Because it can be easy to get swayed or caught up in, what your vision is and what you think God is saying. Right. And it's very helpful to have some feedback on that. So that's what I like about the board.
One of the things I really appreciate about the board, not on staff, I just go to the board meetings and make jokes at bad times. Yes. But one of the things that I really appreciate about the board as a whole is I'm in a room filled with wisdom. It's pretty amazing because we've had some really difficult decisions and things that we've had to discuss over sometimes several board meetings, and the questions that are asked about things that come up, just from perspectives that I would have never thought of. Just the inquiries that come up are one thing. The advice that is given in some of those settings is really remarkable, and it's clearly guided by the Holy Spirit, which I truly appreciate. And then another is just with different personalities, and I'll call Darby out because she's awesome, and this is a compliment, but Darby's kind of like Silent Bob in a way, like we're all in there talking.
There's a compliment for you.
No, it is. So Darby doesn't really say a whole lot a lot of times. Like we'll have our whole meeting, and then at the end she'll say, well, we might need to consider this.
Yeah, that's
true. And
true.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how did we miss that perspective through this whole meeting, all of us talking? And she just comes up with this nugget of wisdom, and we're like, okay, now we have to reconsider how we're looking at this. And it's not just Darby. There's everybody in there that does these things, but hers just kind of stands out to me because
she's so sweet and quiet and everything. But then when she does talk, it does. It commands.
It's impactful.
Yeah, it commands your respect. It commands your attention. So
and she makes the bacon. Just saying.
There it is. The number one criteria.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, what were you going to say, Blake?
Well, I was going to get to your diversity aspect of it, because most of the people a lot of the people on the board, I suppose, are married couples. So there's Mike and Darby and Lance and Liz and that. But it is nice having you on.
No, I think there's also a certain sense of accountability in having differing views and different viewpoints like that too.
Yeah, I do feel like I remember, like getting the it was started with men on the board only, and then their wives were.
She keeps bringing that up. But
added.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Never forget.
The wives were always there.
They were always there,
but
they
weren't
weren't
board
official
members,
members.
and that we changed.
And so then they were added as official board members, and it being like, yay, that's awesome. And then I do feel like it was like, oh, but this is still just representing very similar demographics.
That's right.
And that's what it was, that realization of like, wait, we need to bring different perspectives, because this is all coming, especially because the people on the board have been there for so long. Their kids are similar ages. They're all getting older at similar ages, and realizing like, wait, we're not having the perspective of young parents. We're not having the perspective of people who are single parents. We're not having the perspective of people.
That was a large push in my thinking, or one of the most favorable things for me, not realizing how much else they were going to bring into it. But Kevin and Stephanie being representative at that time of younger, that's something we're going to have to look at again, because we're constantly, aging. And
those are people in our community, and it's important to represent that and see that viewpoint too.
Right. For me, just speaking for myself, and again, I speak out of my own damages, but I just felt like, and I still feel like, the most important thing we can do, because church can be such a dangerous place, the most important thing that we can do is see to it that we've done all that we're capable of to protect people, to keep people safe in this. You come into a church with a huge amount of trust. You can't help it. You have to trust that the people that are there are going to be, are going to be on your side.
That they're who they say they are.
Yeah, that they're who they say they are, that they care about, that your best interest is at the core of it and stuff. And so if on a structural level we can emphasize that, the point of this is to care for people and to keep people safe. I'm going to say that for 30 years it's worked. For 30 years we've been without scandal or without without anybody that I'm aware of. Of course, I'm probably opening the floodgates at this point. Aware of feeling as though they had been abused or mistreated by the community.
Yeah, I mean, you see so many stories, and it's devastating of there being abuse in the church and the leadership and the board working together to cover that up. And it's so...
There's nothing more antichrist to me than that.
And so that's something too, where it's like, we don't ever want to set up a board where it's just yes men and people that just tell us what we want to hear. And
correct.
I remember when we brought Julie Gendam and Tron Gendam in for the board meeting for Eastgate, Mariana. That was I think our most recent board meeting. And I remember kind of prepping her ahead of time because she goes I'm really nervous to talk to the board. I'm like, they're all very nice.
We wear dark robes, of course, and don't let the candles throw you.
You'll see. But it was an interesting thing.
There's bacon there.
But there is bacon.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Luana's like, I did not notice the robes.
What are you
you
talking
mentioned
about?
it was there.
All I had was a margarita in one hand and bacon in the
That's
other.
right. That's all you need for a board
I'll
meeting.
say yes or no to whatever you want.
Keep that glass filled.
Can I just say real quick? Well, there was one time, but there was margaritas at one of them. It is not like a
Yeah, and I don't think I was there, so I'm feeling a little hurt, but that's fine. Is it like it's margaritas because I wasn't there?
Janelle's not here. Woohoo! Clink.
But I was going to say, when I was telling Julie about the board meeting coming up, just letting her know, listen, the board, they're going to ask questions, and I want to make sure that you understand it's not because they're questioning you, but they want to make sure that they have full understanding of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just going to say oh, Janelle suggested this. Yeah, good enough for me. They're going to want to make sure we thought through every aspect of this. And so...
Because we don't want to set anybody up for failure.
Right.
We want to do all we can to...
And sure enough, there was a lot of questions, but it was great. And I was like, these questions are good. And that's what I told her in advance. These questions are good because they care and they want to make sure. And so it was nice, though, because it is my perspective is only going to cover so much. And so that's where you need that group perspective, because even like you talked about with Darby, thinking through things that we wouldn't normally think of.
Yeah, that's true.
So getting back to the book of Acts and about leadership, when are we going to start casting bones to make decisions?
Do they do that in Acts?
Yeah, they do that in Acts. We do that every time. As soon as you leave the room, we pull out the robes and the bones.
And bacon?
The whole RBB. The robes, bones, and bacon.
Only at Eastgate, people. Only at Eastgate.
We are kidding. There's no... That's a whole thing. You really want to go into all of that?
That's a whole other podcast,
that's
man. I know the answer,
it was
but
a leftover tradition
I hear the
from
Indian
something
music,
that
Nate.
the Israelites used to do, and it was a casting of lots. It wasn't bones.
Yeah.
You're making assumption of a bones. They cast lots.
Okay,
that was a practice that was done within Israel at the time. This was in the cusp of the beginning of the church.
Look what you did.
And a new mode of operation, but they're carrying over as if they're Israel. Doing this,
because it's not like there was an announcement of someone walking through being like, "You're in the New Testament now."
Yeah, and so they're doing what they know to do to seek the Spirit's guidance. They were trusting, and we're going to trust the Holy Spirit worked through that as they did the best that they could do. Over time, a new way of perceiving that and understanding, a more robust development of how the Spirit interacts and leads the church.
I hate this so much because Blake's just nodding obviously. But he presented the question.
Well, he's probably waiting to make sure. He's probably testing me to see if I had the right answer.
Yeah. Just bring some dice to the next board meeting. We'll do our own lot.
Just bring bones. It'll be like dog bones, biscuits. And we'll be like, you don't get anything.
It occurred to me as I was talking about it.
I make the bacon.
I saw the look on your face, and I realized it wasn't bones. We don't know that it was
That's
bones.
what I was I didn't. Okay. Yeah.
That's more within shamanism and stuff, the casting of bones. The Israelites used lots. We don't know if it was bones. It could have been bones. I'm not...
Yeah,
See what you've
I got
done,
that.
Blake.
Well, I actually
this is good. I want the audience to see what you did.
He's Cajun. He's got voodoo brain.
It's Cajun.
The only lots I've ever seen cast for bones. I don't know. Is there another kind?
Is there any other questions or thoughts you have? Like Nate, like you're kind of newer here with all this. Does this all make sense? And you're like, I like it.
Yeah, when do I get on the board?
You gotta age into it.
You'll age into it.
Where's the bones? We'll find out.
We try to not have the staff be on the board. So there are some people that are grandfathered into it, like Liz and Dad and Mom, right? But otherwise,
Because they're representing the people who have been here since the beginning.
yeah, and
that's the history
The thing is that
aspect of
when
it.
Eastgate started, Dad didn't take a paycheck, and so everyone was volunteer. So you didn't have to worry about our staff on the board. There was no staff, and so Dad was here for 7 years as a pastor, volunteering for the first 7 years, even moving into this bigger space, not getting a paycheck. So he was working as an artist full time, and then doing the pastor stuff without pay, and really did not want pay. And so after 7 years, the board met together and said, you got to get paid. And so they decided it was like $700, right? And it was a month for 7 years. And so it was part-time. But I remember growing up in the home.
I will say that was the one decision that was made with one dissenter in the
And
whole
it was
thing.
you.
That was me, because I didn't like this idea.
And you didn't like it. But it was, I'll say as your child, it was really, I felt like it freed your schedule and like so much, and it was a very exciting thing of like, it turned a corner, I felt like, in our family's life. And then eventually that turned into more full-time pay, and then Liz was brought in to work the office. And she was already a board member, so that was great because it was like, we know her, we trust her, she's going to do a great job. And so it wasn't.
And I just want to mention, Robbie's not on the board. She
That's
comes as a
right.
staff member.
I
like you do.
get bothered by
And
that.
we're against that, but we understand why, so it's fine.
I think that
Is it because she's a woman or she's your wife?
both. What do you mean?
Which strike is against her?
She's never brought bacon once.
Not one
I've been
time.
waiting. I've had my hand out every single time, waiting for the bacon to show up.
She
But
knows what she has to do.
have
Yeah.
one hand over here for the bacon, one hand over here for the margarita. Never materializes, so that's it. Done.
No, board member for you. Yeah, so Dad and Liz are the only board members that are on staff, and that's even something like it's because they're grandfathered in. We're not going to let staff be on the board anymore because it needs to be a separate thing of accountability, and it needs to be like you don't have a stake in.
That's it. That's the main
the
thing.
budget. You don't have a stake in these other aspects of leadership, so it's got to be separate.
And just that makes it. So it's the board.
Well, we
that
can fire you
determines
if you want to be on the board, Nate.
Let's do it.
major decisions like staff pay, all that kind of stuff. All of that rolls through the board. That's not. We don't allow the people that are the recipients of that to make those final calls.
Yeah, so I'll say that for example, for that, like the finance team, myself, we meet and work through the budget. And as someone that's present and here every day, I have a say in the budget or have opinions about how it goes, but it's got to be approved through the finance team and then it has to be approved through the board. So I just want to clarify, it's not, I think that's important that distinction is made. That it's not just like the board is deciding who gets.
Oh no,
You know what
right?
I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
The
But
final
there's
approval.
nothing is approved. Nothing
Yeah.
is finalized.
Yeah,
without,
like I don't have me
without
as a
the
staff
board
member.
looking.
I can,
And it's not like we've made suggestions before as it touches that kind of thing that those that oversee the finances and stuff have looked at and saying, this isn't going to be feasible or realistic. We can't do it. And so we've had to just we
go
deal
with
with
it.
that. We get over it and we move forward because that keeps everybody safe.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
If you, the listener, have any questions or if there's something you want to learn more about, you can send us an email at egcfpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening.
The whole RBB, the robes, bones, and bacon.
I feel like breaking out in song, but that would be really bad.
So doodly doo
In the
doo
New
doo doo
Testament.
blah 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 blah.